Hi, good evening. So for those of you that maybe have never met me, I'm Lexi Jurrens, and I grew up in this church. So about 7 years ago, probably to this day, I was sitting at this table. And if you had told me then, first of all, that 7 years would go by like a day, I would have laughed at you. And also, if you had told me that 7 years later I would be here speaking, I would have said, why? Why exactly? And honestly, even a month ago, Pastor Aaron texted me and asked me to do this, and I had a very, very similar response. Just thinking, why? What can I possibly tell them? What do I know that would be useful to graduating seniors? But I kind of took that and I chewed on that a little bit and thought about it. And I realized that I know a lot. I do know some stuff. So a lot has happened in my life in the 7 years that it's been since graduating. And I know that God has certainly been at the wheel for all of that, whether or not I could see that at the time. And He's definitely taught me things in the last however long, things about life and things about myself. So I guess I've been racking my brain for the last month or so, just trying to come up with things that I can maybe pass on and pieces of advice. And so I'm going to share just a couple of key points tonight with all of you. So before I do that, I kind of want to back up and share a little bit about myself and the plans that I thought I had for myself graduating high school. So if we rewind a little bit to 2012, my thoughts were that I would graduate from Avon, go to Augustana and double major in biology and chemistry, and hopefully one day pursue a career in dentistry or optometry or some sort of medical field, thinking that I would go off and I would do my thing, meet some wonderful scientist husband, and everything would be fine and dandy. I would get whatever credentials I needed and come back to Avon and be a dentist or be an eye doctor or fix all the teeth of Avon. And it was a solid plan. Like, this was written in gold. It was in my scholarship applications. It was in my graduation speech. So people knew about this, and I thought it had to happen. And then I went to school, and the first semester hit me with 16 credits, really hard. And all the calculus and chemistry told me that I was not going to be a dentist. So I dropped that very quickly. But I did pursue the biology major, and I got about 2 years in and hit another wall. I realized I'm not going to med school. I'm not going to work in a lab, and that's about all I know. I can't go anywhere else with this. And somewhere along the line, someone suggested teaching. And this might be another time when I maybe laughed in a person's face in my life. So people will ask you multiple times when you're growing up, what do you want to be? What are you going to do? And I never had an answer, but I knew what I wasn't going to be, and that was a teacher. And I have very petty reasons for that. One being that there was always the sick kid in school. There was always the one you could count on to be in the corner, sick. And I just always felt terrible for the teacher. Like, you have to deal with that. Why? I'm not doing that. So there's that. I get very nervous. I'm not a good public speaker, or I'm not someone who enjoys doing this. I might have a rash right now. So for those reasons, I just didn't think that teaching was something I could do, and I never really thought about it. But I jumped on it. I took a class, and by the end of that class, I had declared an education major. And I just kind of rolled with it from there. I graduated in 2016 and started applying for jobs. So there were several options open in this area. There was one in Yankton, in Freeman, Harrisburg. And I was very, very set on the Yankton one. It was close to mom and dad. It was close to the, at the time, boyfriend. It was close to Walmart. It just made sense, like, Yankton. This is what it needs to be. So I was very, very disappointed then when that didn't pan out, and very discouraged and just frantic almost of not knowing where do I go now? What if nothing works out? What if I have to go to McLaughlin, South Dakota, the only other option? Like, I don't know where that is. I'm sorry if anyone is from there. But I was very just terrified. What if I have to go to the boondocks? I don't want to go out there. So luckily, several weeks later, the people in Freeman called me and offered me that job, and I was still very skeptical because Freeman Flyers, I never thought that I could claim that title, but I've come to terms, growing. And honestly, I'm very content with where I'm at right now. I just feel like this is where I'm supposed to be, like I'm doing what I need to be doing, and I can just see God's hand in all of that because it's not anywhere where I would have imagined myself before being here. So all of that, through all of my history here, that brings me to my first point, something that God has really been teaching me lately, even in the past several months, and that is that our plans are not our own. Like I said, I went into college expecting things to play out a certain way, and they didn't. I graduated college thinking that I would get the first job that opened up, and I didn't. I was in a serious relationship thinking that I was going to get married, and I was picking out children's names and what type of dog I wanted to get. And clearly that didn't actually happen quite the way I wanted it either. And I'm sure you guys have plans for yourselves or places that you envision yourselves being in the next several years. And I'm not here to say, like, don't do that. Don't make plans, because you should. But I am here to tell you not to be surprised if God knocks you off of that plan and takes you somewhere else. Because the truth of the matter is we can make all the plans for ourselves that we want, and we can spend days and months and years doing that, and in the end it's only God's plans that are going to come to completion. So I want to just read a couple verses to confirm that. And I'm shaking, so give me a minute here. The first one is Proverbs 16:9. And it says, "In his heart a man plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps." And I just think this verse really attests to the fact that we can spend all that time saying, I'm going to do this or that, all right? This is my plan, this is how it needs to be. And in the end, God is going to take us where he wants us, regardless of the plans that we make for ourselves. But whatever that is, whether it matches your plan or whether it's something totally unexpected, it's going to be good. So my next verse is Romans 8:28, which is a fairly familiar verse to a lot of people. And it says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." And I just really like this verse because I think it serves as a reminder that no matter where you end up or no matter what happens to you, even if it seems like an adverse situation, maybe it's not quite what you envisioned for yourself, but odds are it's going to end up being better than you could have imagined. And the last passage for this point is James 4:13 through 15. It says, "Now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that." And I just feel like those are very humbling verses. Just kind of speaks to our humanity and that we are not guaranteed anything. So rather than making those extensive plans and spending all of that time, we should just be happy with what we have and happy with the day that we're given, and just be content with where God has you at this moment. So of course, being happy and being content don't just come easily. Those are a choice that we make every day. So that brings me into my next point. When you get to college, there's going to be a lot of choices that you have to make. Some of them are easy. What should I wear today? Should I go to breakfast? Should I eat cereal in my dorm room? Easy things that not really a big deal. And then there's going to be some harder choices. Should I go to church this Sunday? Should I sleep in? Should I go to this Bible study, or should I go out with my friends? And those are just more difficult choices to make, because this is kind of your first taste of freedom. You're finally out of mom and dad's house. You kind of just want to live life, do your thing. And you think that maybe it won't be that hard to be a Christian in college, that it's something you have grown up with and you're just going to take it with you and go. But honestly, it's a choice every single day, one that doesn't always come easily. It gets harder to get up and go to church when mom and dad aren't rapping on your door over and over and over. It's 8:30. It's 8:40. It's 8:50. We're going to leave. There's no one there to drag you out of bed. It gets harder to go to a Bible study or a small group when you don't know who's going to be there. Your friends might not always go. Some people in college aren't going to accept you or agree with you. Some professors will try to sway you of your beliefs. Some people make fun of you. So you have to choose, are you going to hold on to the faith that you've grown up on, or are you going to let it falter when the pressures of college get hard? So John 16:33 says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So no one ever said it would be easy. In fact, Jesus said it's going to be hard. He's warning us, you're going to have trouble. But I think that is kind of comforting, because Jesus knew how hard it was going to be. And he tells us that we're not alone. He walks with us through all of those decisions. And just know that you are not alone in making those decisions either. We as Christians have to make hard decisions every single day of our lives, and I can guarantee that no one makes that right choice every single time. So do just remember that the Lord is with you through it. Pray for guidance when you have to make those choices. And if you have not, I would memorize 1 Corinthians 10:31, which says, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. So when you're faced with those decisions, think, is this choice going to glorify God? And if it's not, then maybe that's not the choice to make. And lastly, going into my third final point, you don't have to make the right choice every single time, and you don't have to be perfect. You are enough. For me, college brought a lot of pressure in different forms, whether that was struggling to have A's in my classes, making sure I was making enough friends, making sure I wasn't gaining the freshman 15, which is a thing, and mostly just hoping that people liked me, trying to fit in with whatever group of people it was. And when you're in it, all of that stuff seems really, really important. It seems like a life or death situation, and I promise it's not. But it does drive you crazy after a while. You can really get caught up in it. I spent a lot of time looking for acceptance and validation from people that I didn't even know, and people that, honestly, I will probably never, ever see again. When what I really wanted, I already had. All I wanted was to be seen and to be accepted and to feel loved. And even as a Christian, it took me a long time to turn around and see that God was there with all of that. Like, here I am. All you needed to do was open your eyes. So why look for acceptance from strangers when we already have that? Ephesians 2:4-5 says, but because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ even when we were dead in our transgressions. It is by grace you have been saved. So know that you guys are enough. And if you ever feel like you're not, remember who you are in Christ. You are accepted, you're beautiful, you are perfect, and you don't have to fit in with any kind of crowd. You can just be yourselves. So one last verse here as a reminder is Zephaniah 3:17. It says, "The Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He will take great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing." And if that is not acceptance for us, I don't know what is. So as you go forward into your lives, remember that God is in control. He loves you. He knows his plans for you. And he walks with you through all of it. So good luck to you guys.